It's so much fun to be here. I'm so excited to be grilled by two authors.
She says that now.
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
Welcome to this week's show, brought to you by Vellum, of course.
Vellum. You know, Vellum is the best formatting solution in the entire world.
Galaxy.
The whole galaxy, yes.
And did you know, so I knew this, but I hadn't messed with it for ages because I kind of set the format that I do the interior of the books with and haven't touched it in probably years at this point. But I was chatting about it with another friend the other day, and I forgot. When you're in Vellum, on the left-hand column at the top, there's this little swirly pattern thing, which I don't know what to call it apart from a swirly pattern thing. But if you click on it, it changes the left column. Term. Yeah, that's the technical term. I think that's what they refer to it as.
We should ask Brad. Yeah, that's swirly.
And these two knowledgeable guys talking about this thing. The swirly thing on the left-hand side.
You click on it. You click on it. This swirly thing? No, not that swirly thing. The other swirly thing.
Anyway, if you open that, it opens the styles menu, and it's got the brings up the standard format styles, which most of us just pick one and go with that. But on the top right of that is a little drop down, and you can go in and start editing within that template of that style and tune it as you see fit. So Vellum, thinking of everyone, has these standard styles that you could use that fit most people, and then you can go in and customize it if you want to get real trick about it.
Oh, that's fancy. Did you get real trick about yours? Because I'm just a custom kind of a guy. I just go with a template kind of guy.
Yeah, I went pretty simple, and I've kept it the same. And I don't like a bunch of crazy formatting going on, as we've discussed before.
The swirly thing just bothers you.
Swirly thing. So now everyone go in your Vellum, go looking for the swirly thing. All right. Big thank you also to our Patreon supporters. Thanks so much. A couple of bucks a month, and you can jump in and get the bonus questions stuff. And we do a bonus question with every guest that we have, and you get to hear that in there. It's always a juicy nugget of info. So worth it, and it supports the show, helps us bring this to you. And our guest today, oh boy.
It's going to be exciting.
I'm fangirling. The amazing New York Times bestselling thriller author Lisa Gardner is with us today. So we'll chat with her shortly. But first of all, we have a listener question from our recent guest and another amazing Lisa, our good friend Lisa Reagan. Lisa Reagan, thank you so much for sticking around for a listener question. So lay it on us. What you got for us?
For authors, what is the strangest thing that you saw, heard, or experienced in real life that you tried to put in a book and were told either by an editor or by readers after the book came out that it was ridiculous or not realistic?
I could tell you right off the bat what and this is less so something strange I saw, but something I got way wrong. And I have a sailboat is in my first book. I got how fast the sailboat would go wrong. And I thought I fixed it in a couple of spots, but it's apparently still one spot floating out there where I get comments all the time about me not knowing anything about sailing. But as far as outrageous things that I put into a book, I've put some outrageous stuff into the books. And sometimes I'm like, they'll never let this fly. And they tend to let it go for the most part. But mine are a little bit more outrageous and blowy up than say Nick's. So what do you got, Nick?
I was trying to think. There's a couple of things come to mind. They're probably not outrageous. I've had people comment on scuba diving stuff before and like, oh, you couldn't do that scuba diving. And these people don't actually scuba dive, and they're just saying, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of a scuba diver. I've been doing it a while. I got a couple of dives and certifications. I make sure all the scuba diving is plausible. It might stretch it a bit, but it's definitely plausible. But there was one that cracks me up is I had in an A.J. Bailey book. She has a motorcycle that I introduced after a while. She rides a Ducati Multistrada, the smaller version. and she can barely tiptoe on it, right? But when she's going, she's good. And it's kind of an adventure bike, so kind of an off-road style. And I put a motorcycle chase in there, of course. And Nora's actually on the back of the bike with her, and they go racing through Grand Cayman. And this was a really fun scene that I wrote because I wasn't in Cayman. I was in the States at the time, and I'm looking on the maps to see where I can go. And there's this one section, I've kind of told this story before, I think, but I couldn't tell what this was. It looked like these white blocks in this thing by the beach. And there was a perfect trail for it to go racing through on this motorcycle. So I WhatsApped my friend over here, Casey Keller, who works for the DOE. And she's like, I'm like, what is this? Look on a map. She goes, well, where is it? I'm describing, we're going back and forth. She goes, well, I'm in West Bay. So she drives in her DOE truck over there. And she goes, it's a cemetery. I'm like, what? It's these huge concrete, what do they call them? Mausoleums? Not a mausoleum.
Mausoleums, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mausoleum.
Because it's by the water and they flood. So, that's what it is. And there's this scene. So I wrote this whole motorcycle chase scene through there. And it was really cool how it came about and everything else. You know, I've ridden motorcycles my whole life, and my wife rode motorcycles for many years. So I put the scene in the book. It went out there. And actually one of her sisters who rode a motorcycle a little bit ago, well, that's ridiculous. A girl couldn't ride like that. And I'm like, yeah, like no. It's like I was dying to send her a bunch of videos of the amazing stuff that can be done by man or female on a motorcycle.
I will say that several years ago, it was a concern because sometimes I do some outrageous stunts in mine, and I was reading one of Mark Graney's Gray Man series. I forget which one, but he has him flying into a Russian estate underneath ultralight, so he's controlling it by hanging. And I was like, okay, if he can do that and be on the New York Times bestseller list, then I can do any fucking thing I want to do.
Yeah, so, it's wide open.
It's wide open.
All right, how about you, Lisa? What you got?
Well, mine is not as exciting as that, but I had this scene early on in Vanishing Girls where Josie was going through the woods and she sees this abandoned house. This is just one example. I have a second one that's a little sexier, but there's a tree that is growing straight up through the center of the house. And my editor made me take it out because she was like, there's just no way that this would happen in life. And I was like, but I've seen it.
Yeah, but I have seen this. Yeah.
And then the other one, I wanted to do a book where Denton is a mountainous region. So you've got these winding mountain roads. And let's say a woman disappears during the summer, and in the fall and winter, when all the leaves fall off the trees, her car is suspended, hanging between two trees on the side of the mountain, which has happened in central Pennsylvania. And they were like, no, never
Unbelievable. My God.
The other thing was in book 11, I had Josie on this mountain road in central Pennsylvania, and she could not get a signal on her phone, that is based on actual experience.
Very accurate, yes.
I remember my dad used to have this house up the mountains, and you would have to go to the corner of the living room, and I'm talking like in the whole town,
and hold your cell up,
in the chair, and hold it up, and you might get one bar. So she's, like in one of those areas, she can't get reception, and I had all these readers contact me and say that's not possible.
They should come to my house because I get one bar signal.
Yeah, I was going to say, Doug has to travel an hour to do the podcast because he can't get any kind of cell reception or internet at his house.
Yeah, it's people don't always understand that, especially if you live in the city. Like people who don't get out in the country at all, no idea what it's like out there that it gets, And we were talking with Craig Johnson, the Longmire series. Living in Wyoming, he says the same problem. You get up there, and there's no signal, and they don't, readers be like, well, that's not possible. He'd have a cell phone. Doesn't work here. So
brilliant. All right, Lisa, thank you. Great question. Thanks a lot for sticking around and doing a listener question for her. And now we'll get on to this week's interview. Lisa Gardner, this is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Great. And it's so much fun to be here. I'm so excited to be grilled by two authors.
She says that now.
That should be our soundbite right there for later on.
Lisa was excited.
That out there
briefly, but she was excited. All right. So give us a little bit of background. I think most people know of Lisa Gardner, but give us a little background on how you first got started in writing and published.
Well, I'm a little different. I actually wrote my first book at 17 and sold it at 20. I lived in Oregon. I knew nothing about publishing. I was just an avid reader. I got it in my head because when you're 17, you don't know any better that I could write a book because I never met an editor, an agent, an author. I knew nothing about publishing. I really did just literally write a book.
Well, sometimes it's helpful to be like, 17-year-olds as a general rule think they can do anything anyway. So if you don't know you can't do it, then you might as well do it.
I will confess the moral of my story is a little bit ignorance is bliss. Wrote this manuscript, stuck it under my bed, went off to college. People are like, what did you do for your summer? I'm like, I wrote a book. And they're like, that's weird. It's like, is it? Apparently, if you're a book nerd, you don't know these things. You just figure everyone has a book under their bed. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It is always weird as a kid. Yeah. I was always writing too. And people I knew didn't write. And I was like, why wouldn't you write? It's just,
Yeah. In your free time, this is what you did. Like you get these kind of like weird looks. But then it was really other people saying, well, you should publish it because I hadn't gotten that far. Again, I knew nothing about publishing. So this was pre-internet. This was back in the day. I'm like the dinosaur of authors at this point.
I was going to say, you're only 34, so this was only a few years ago.
Yeah, this was I love you for that alone. But yeah, so there was actually, you went to these things called libraries, and they're filled with actual books that are reference materials. And one of them was the writer's market. It's so much fun to tell these stories now. The blank stares in the audience is absolutely awesome.
I found my copy of the Writer's Market from 1994 that I had it's in my barn, and it's now water damaged. But I was like,
"Gotcha, Doug. Gotcha."
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I used that, and then I waited 3 years. But you got to like this. I was so arrogant because you're a kid. I wrote 2 more books because surely they will discover me. And I will be Stephen King, and this will be amazing. And well, eventually I did sell all 3 of those books for enough money to buy my first computer, my first printer, go to McDonald's in my free time.
Yeah.
But that would probably give you the bug, I'm sure. Yeah, at that point, like the minute you sell the first one, you're like, oh, I can do more of that.
It's interesting. I have a family that is quote unquote really into real jobs.
Oh, yes.
I even thought of it as a hobby. And to be honest, my first 10 years, I made hobby money. But I went out in the real world and I discovered I didn't like it much. And it turns out I don't like bosses. Who knew?
I tell everybody I am 100% unemployable right now. Like a boss would tell me to do something, I'd be like, yeah, you can go fuck yourself.
When I want to do it, I'm so excited. The minute someone else wants me to do something, even if it's something I a minute before wanted to do, no, now I have zero interest. So
very defiant. You're just like, whatever. No, you can't tell me to make money.
It turns out I'm not exactly employable. You nailed it. So
that's fair. One of these days we'll have a old folks home for writers who can't do anything else. That's all we're going to be doing. So.
But I will say I joined a writers group, and this is something I don't think a lot of people know. Writers, fellow authors are amazing. And it was actually my fellow authors who were like, oh my God, you have no idea what you're doing. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And they're like, you need to get an agent. You need to do this. You need to do that. So I got my first agent. She read the stuff I had been publishing, which was small little genre fiction. And she's like, your violence is so good, which is always remains words dear to my heart.
It's always good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, write me a mainstream thriller where you kill a lot of people and there's a serial killer. So that's what I did. And then 10 years later, I got to be an overnight success.
That's about right.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's an amazing story in the fact that you actually had success with your first novels and got some attention and got somewhere in the time frame that you did it, because there was no shortcut. You couldn't self-publish and just do it yourself at the time.
No, but you also didn't necessarily make a livable wage. I mean, there's that too. But I mean, the only way to learn to write is to write. And so I wasn't necessarily making bank, but I had contracts and I wrote because you had to write. And I mean, without those 10 years, there's no way I could have become the thriller writer I am now.
Of course, yeah. And how many books do you have under your belt now?
I've been in the business 35 years.
Nick just told me you were 34, and so that's
yeah. I started in utero. That's what we got from this. You know, your child prodigies, you got nothing on me.
Yeah, that's right. I came out with a 200,000 word manuscript. It was harder for the book than it was for me. Yeah,
I think I'm thrillers. I think I'm almost 30, but I wrote all these genre fiction things before then. So I think I'm closing 40. I mean, I don't know. I don't count. I don't care. I feel like if you're an author, it's what you're working on now that matters.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah, we both talk about it. We lose count on like the series we have.
And
like,
people ask you, what's your favorite book? The one I'm working on right now.
Oh, I'm better than that. I'm like anyone that's already done. The one I'm working on now.
The one I just did.
It's also my list. It's usually the one I hate too. I'm like, gosh, Diane. No.
All right. Well, I'm no doubt you're working on something else already, but coming out on August the 4th is You'll Be Sorry. So let's talk about that a little bit. Am I right in saying it's a tad darker? I mean, you write some dark stuff, but this one's a tad darker still, right?
It was so much fun for me to write You'll Be Sorry because it's actually a return to my thriller roots when I first started, all those years ago, because I started out with writing Gothics because that's what I loved. And back in the 80s, the Gothics were huge. Then it all became serial killers and police procedurals. And I enjoyed writing those, but we are back to everything old is new again. Gothics are back. So I was kind of like, hello, I love this stuff. So You'll Be Sorry is my first standalone in forever because I've been writing police procedurals, the Frankie Elkin sleuth novels kind of thing where, you have a small mountain village where everyone thinks they know each other, but there's all these deep, dark secrets. And then 30 years ago, this family of 6 disappeared. No one knows how, but now a mysterious young couple has overtaken the crime scene as their new home. Gee, what will happen next?
How about that? She just created the blurb right there.
She did. We're going to edit that out for you. That's your Facebook post for the next couple of weeks. Yes.
I mean, it was so much fun to write. I mean, I just love those. And I think like a lot of thriller writers, I love the things we think we know, not just about our neighbors, our community, about, the person sleeping beside us in the bed. And the whole nature of the Gothics is the person you should fear isn't the stranger danger. It's not the Ted Bundys of the world. It's the person you are madly in love with. That's where the terror should start. Like, who doesn't love that? Come on.
I'm going to have to be careful. Somehow I've got to avoid my wife listening to this podcast. She already questions some of the things I do in the book. So it's like, really? You came up with that idea?
That does beg. So do you ever like read something that you're like, wow, I really did. I did come up with something dark in that thought.
I just go with that's classic. So, if your wife reads this stuff, you're like, oh, that's not me, dear. That's a classic book element. We have been afraid of the people we've loved since time began, which is kind of an interesting psychological thing. And if this was a therapy broadcast, we could have a lot of fun with that.
If this is a therapy broadcast, that therapist would probably have a lot of time with me and Nick. So don't worry. So one of the things that Nick, as we were talking about getting ready for this, we talked about one of the things you do, which I think you do really well, is you kind of use locations almost like a character. And so like in this upcoming book, it's like the house in itself. So I mean, is that deliberate, or is that kind of something that just organically is happening as you're writing along?
I'm actually very grateful to hear you say that, because I feel like in the beginning of my career, that's actually what I really struggled with. I've always been a good author in terms of character development and that deep internal point of view. But location, setting, my brother very famously read my first book and said, none of your characters are wearing clothes. And I'm like, well, come on. If you're running from a serial killer, are you really reflecting on your fashion choices? But I reread the book and he was correct. There was actually no descriptors of anything. Like, I'm poor at that. But later in my career, it has become clear to me, you can really use setting. And there's some authors very famously, Tammy Hogue was one, who's like, setting is always the fourth character. And I've loved that, but it's something I've consciously worked on. So intentional in a way of like, I'm trying to do, if you've had a long career and you're a writer, you're an author, you're trying to learn new tricks. So thank you very much. I feel better about my learning curve.
You've definitely now. I mean, I'm reading the Frankie Elkins, which is the Afghanistan story and setting and stuff like that. And both the Tucson setting and the story from Afghanistan put you in those locations. So it's brilliantly done. And we'll talk about that some more.
And now, let's hear from this episode's sponsor.
How to Plan, Write, and Promote a Profitable Series by author, educator, and founder of Heart Breathing's Sarah Cannon, whose Author Nation session is built around one idea. Every book in a series should sell the next one. Everything else flows from that. You'll map a bingeable series concept, build the arc, and leave with the release timing that actually moves read-through numbers. AuthorNation.live. Join us November 10th through 13th in Las Vegas.
And now, let's get back to the show.
I know you said you've never planned on writing a series. The characters have just spoken to you and had more to say, and they've become a series. So Amanda Grady, maybe?
You know, I have to admit, I've done a classic thing, and you'll be sorry. I really like her. and I live in a small town. So you want the insider's point of view. So when I was writing You'll Be Sorry, it takes place in a town, Sherford, New Hampshire, which is fictional, but might bear a startling resemblance to the town I live in. Not very people-y, as many authors are not very people-y. Did you guys ever watch that show, Northern Exposure?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
My town is Northern Exposure.
Oh, wow.
We're small, we know each other, but we're weird. We're eclectic.
They're going to look at you even weirder when this book comes out and they realize that it's based around
I think they're resigned to their fate at this point. We have 3 New York Times bestselling authors in a town of 600.
What?
Yeah, and 3 very disparate careers. A memoir author, I'm the suspense author, and someone who I'm like John Krakauer. So like, who knew in a million years this would be? So we're the eclectic community.
You guys like get together and have like coffee and like just talk about your books? Because we have nobody in Memphis that I can talk to about books that are next.
It is fun because you kind of can, except, we definitely have different. I'm so sorry. Someone has decided to show up because we're doing a live studio recording. Can you edit out my dog barking, or do you want me to?
No, it adds character.
No, it's okay. We love the dog barking. Yeah, my dog will bark in a minute. We could bring them together. They can just like.
If you're going to have a cat or other critter come across the table, we've had that several times before. That's a good one.
I have to say, I think since COVID and Zoom, the animal crashing is everything. Like, you just love that thing. And a dog is a primary character, and You'll Be Sorry. In fact, Dog the dog is probably one of my favorite characters. So we've got that.
And you can't kill him because he's the favorite of everybody, probably. So yeah, no.
When I started writing thrillers, I was given 2 rules to follow. One is everyone has to be smart, which is the villain and the police. It can't be that things are happening because someone was stupid. It's just not satisfying. It has to be a battle of wits. And 2, you cannot kill an animal. So I think those are the rules, as much as any of us follow them.
Well, some people can get away with it. Like, you could probably get away with killing a dog now, but
I don't think, I think one of the things with commercial fiction is you do have a contract with the reader. I feel like stuff that dark, people talk about thrillers are dark, but I think the really dark stuff is literary fiction. I think when someone's reading a thriller, it's commercial fiction still. You want to be scared and you want the kind of chills and the, oh my God, but you don't want to be, that's wrong. Like, that's horrifying. You want to be entertained. You want to be, kind of, oh my God, I know what's going to happen next, but you don't want to be saddened or horrified. You don't want to be devastated.
It's a cheap horror when you kill the animal. I think it's, you lose a portion of your audience when you do it.
Lee Child talked about, we don't like undeserving victims. And like, children, animals are innocent. And one of the things when we're doing commercial fiction and thrillers is, back to your point, really people are reading this because they want good versus evil and they want good to win. If you have innocent victims, the collateral damage gets to be high, and it's no longer that cushion. Like, I want to be slightly kind of terrified and slightly kind of intrigued on my sofa, but I don't want to be saddened.
And then you've got Stephen King, Kill Your Darlings. So, but he writes stuff a little differently.
So I've got to kind of get back into your process a little bit. How far out are you planning your projects? And do you have to approach your agent? You don't?
No, I don't even plot a novel, let alone the career. I'm a very, very instinctive. That sounds cool. Also, whimsical would be the other word.
I think discovery writer is the term we like to
Discovery
use.
writer is what we've heard. Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally going to steal that. I'm the self-discovery writer. I will say when you're doing suspense, we all cheat a little because, I mean, especially for myself, I just spend a lot of my free time reading strange news and true crime and stuff like that. And the real world is so much crazier than anything we could come up with. But there'll be a case or there'll be something. And for me, it'll be like, not just that's crazy, but just how could that happen? Why did that happen?
I get fascinated by some of these news stories where I'm like, ooh, I know I shouldn't be rooting for the bad guy who just broke out of jail, but how did he do that? That's kind of cool. So.
Fascinated right now with this whole psychology of the prisoner correction officer dynamic, where it's inevitably some female correction officer that helped, the serial killer break out of jail. They're charismatic, but
I'm terrible at remembering the names of TV shows and stuff, but there was just a series we watched recently that had that. And they developed that relationship, and that's how he got out. And it was really well done.
I mean, I get Ted Bundy, my very first thriller novel, The Perfect Husband. I'm from the West Coast, was kind of based on Ted Bundy and The Stranger Beside Me, because I grew up with all those girls vanishing. But you look in this day and age of some of these breakouts, and you're like, you look at the photo of the inmate and you're just like, I don't get it.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of Frankie Elkin, so we got to talk about Frankie Elkin a little bit. So an amazing, successful series. The subject matters are really interesting. And am I right in saying you just wait until you find something that really grabs you and you go, I'm going to put that into a Frankie Elkin?
Yes. And sadly, or for better or for worse, Frankie Elkin does not lack for cases.
Right. Yeah, that's true, right? There's plenty out there. So one of the things that I think is that I really want to ask you about, because this plays into some of my writing and my characters, is there is a lot of humor in a Frankie Elkin book. I mean, her internal dialogue and her little one-liners are, I woke my wife up the other night. Laughing. I was laughing. She'd just fallen asleep. She's like, shut up. How do you find that balance, right? Because you have to have a balance with the humor in there. Because if there's too much or in the wrong places, it takes away the tension, all that stuff. So how do you handle that?
I will say some of this is organic to me and my family and the culture I grew up in. We're pretty hardcore, but at the same time, dark humor. It's like when I interview with police officers and other people, it's like the dark humor is what gets them through. I think also when you're writing dark, and poor Frankie Elkin, here's an everyday woman who, for reasons she can't even completely understand, feels compelled to look for the missing no one else even cares about. And she's going into new situations where she knows no one. And she has to very quickly try to build some connection network. I mean, they end up being a support network, whether she's willing to admit that or not. But, you got to build contacts to investigate anything, right? And her style and flair of doing that is humor. And I think it's just also how she's wired. The worse things get, the funnier she kind of is, or the more, I wouldn't say it balances her out. It's just a coping skill. And I will say in terms of the writing process itself, I always talk about it. It's the Goldilocks thing, where the first time might be too much. Then the second draft might be too little, but the third draft
we all love a broken protagonist, but again, fine line stuff, right? Because like you said earlier, they can't be stupid, but they've made bad decisions and they've been down bad paths. So describe Frankie, for anyone who hasn't read these books, talk about Frankie a little bit and her background, because she's a very interesting character.
Love Frankie. I think she hit a huge chord with readers. She's broken and she's trying to find her way. She is that woman who in her younger life made all the wrong decisions. But I mean, she doesn't have this terrible, tragic past. Her parents loved her and they're both passed away now, but she talks about that a lot. But yeah, her father was a pass out drunk. He wasn't violent. He wasn't abusive, but yeah, he wasn't present. Then he tried to be, then he wasn't, what was worse. And her mom was constantly compensating by working a million jobs. So Frankie kind of raised herself into being a pass out drunk. These are lives we know. These are real human experiences. And then somewhere along the way, met this person and was kind of like, had enough time on the other side of the police station. She likes to joke when she deals with law enforcement now. She's used to being in the other seat. But what I love about her now as a protagonist, so her kind of dry drunk, she started reading articles, and this is true to real life. There's people who are doing this now. No background, no special skill, but it's kind of one of those, so much of us go through life not looking at the tragedies around us. That's someone else's problem. Frankie, it's like, it's all my problem. People like keep telling her, this isn't your battle to fight. She's like, it's always my battle to fight. Why isn't it your battle to fight? Why don't we care more about the people around us? I mean, if anything, Frankie would say the rest of the world is wrong. But this is what she does now. She goes down these rabbit holes of finding someone no one else cares about for no money. She has no real job. I mean, she exists on the fringes, but she'll tell you as a pass out drunk. She lived a lot on the fringes. So on the one hand, the lifestyle is comfortable to her, but also I think Frankie's appeal and Frankie's superpowers, she's not judgmental at all. She's a great amateur sleuth in that, yeah, whatever crimes you think you committed, yeah, been there, done that. I mean, I'm not here to, my previous, all my other series have been police officers or detectives or FBI, who are people who have a certain background and value system and moral code. And Frankie's been amazing because she's like, you could screw up every single decision in your life. You can do incredibly bad things and you can still be a really good person who cares about the people around you. And I think that strikes a chord in so many people.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's interesting too. I think that the morality of thriller protagonists is always, it's got, that's such a fascinating thing to me because, you have all sorts of characters who can be anywhere from the Jack Reachers of the world to, I think one of my favorite was Kinky Friedman, who played himself in his own books. But it's always this weird moral compass that they all have their own particular one. So
I think we always love the lone gunman, so to speak, or the cowboy that rides into town. Or I think there's this universal and even global gestalt of bureaucracy, the trappings of modern society. So many people fall through those cracks and no one's helping them. And it takes a Jack Reacher, Frankie Elkin, though, I mean, she's not physical at all. My other joke is when she rides into town, so to speak, the job she can get because she has no life skills is she can be a bartender. But bartenders are famously good listeners. And that actually is what her job is. She asks the questions. She actually listens to the answers. And I think that strikes a chord as well. I think a lot in the world in general right now, we've lost our listening skills.
So speaking of Frankie, it was optioned a few years back for TV. Talk about that a little bit, and if you can, where it's at. Hollywood's a very slow moving vehicle, but talk about that a little bit.
So Frankie's been exciting, not exciting, exciting, not exciting, which is how these things work. So during COVID, it was optioned by Hilary Swank, highlight of my career. I got to be on Zoom with Hilary Swank, who I have to say, if you look at Hilary Swank, I'm like, oh my God, you are Frankie. And that project went on for a bit, but then Hilary Swank engaged in another project, which was called Having Twins.
How selfish.
Rude of her. Golly,
yeah. Frankie left that, but now Frankie got optioned by another source, but that's more recently, and we're still now, we're reinventing the wheel now. So,
well, fingers crossed for you. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, all of us fingers crossed. That's how this stuff works.
A quick word from this episode's sponsor.
Hi, everyone. It's Jamie Davis, show manager from Author Nation here again. Are you coming to the conference this November? Definitely stop me for a free dad joke. Like, why is the library often the tallest building in a town? It has the most stories.
Now, back to the show. You're very well known for your in-depth research. So the first question I have is, have you ever been working on something and trying to figure something out and gone, I need to go there, and either get in the car or get on a plane and go? Just spontaneous.
I prefer that. It was actually interesting to write the most recent Frankie book, Kiss Her Goodbye, because I couldn't go to Afghanistan. for some obvious reasons. So doing that research was actually one of the more troublesome for me. I'm an author that believes, I believe you want to experience it if you can. You want to see it, touch it, taste it, feel it. Nora Roberts, who's a huge romance women's fiction author back in the day, I sat through some of her workshops, and she's like, you should be able to set a scene in like 3 sentences. But the trick is all 5 sentences. And for most of us, we just describe how something looks. And that's why you end up with pages and pages and pages of description, because you're having a hard time capturing it. We don't experience things solely in how things look. It's how they smell, the touch, the feel. And you can't get that if you're not there. That's the thing you can't get from Google. So I've been very famously, because I, again, live in the mountains of New Hampshire, which is limited. I have been known to email people, hey, I just read a blog where you help people search for fugitives. I'm an author. Wouldn't you like to teach me in upstate New York how to search for fugitives? And it's amazing how many times they're like, what? Well, okay, whatever. If you want to, I want to abandon someone in a cave and I want them to live for 3 days. How would they do that? You're a spelunker. Tell me. And then let's go look at the cave. And then,
yeah. So I want to jump over here and ask you a little bit about like Thriller Fest. I mean, that's one of those things that but you've been like director of large with international thriller writers who run Thriller Fest every year. So what makes ITW and Thriller Fest so special to you? Because your name always pops up when we start looking it up.
I've been involved with ITW for a while as a board member, the Thriller author at large, which, Charlene Harris and I are like, we don't really like the at large thing. We're just going to go for, there's got to be a better title than at large. But I don't love getting into what's a mystery, what's a thriller, what's a cozy, what's this and that. But the truth is, I broke out in thrillers. And I remember going to my first VoucherCon, Mystery Writers of America, and trying to talk about what I was doing. I had a serial killer book where the husband was a serial killer, and everyone just being like, what? So when they first started the International Thriller Writers, that was an organization where myself and the stories I like to read and I like to write felt like home. And I will say, I do think books in general are a community. And the International Thriller Writers has been a phenomenal community, whether you're a reader, a fan, a writer. But I also argue, because I've done a lot with the debut authors, which is where some of my passion is at this stage of my career. You have to form a community to survive this. You've got to get friends. And I even talk about like class, like this is the class you grew up with. So I've been 35 years in this business, and the class I grew up with includes everyone from Kristen Hanna and I started out in our infancy together to Karen Slaughter and I did, and Harlan Coben and Lee Child. We were all with Bantam. We did book tours together. And it's interesting because people talk about, well, you're a famous author, so you know famous authors. It's like, no, we all knew each other when we were struggling authors. That's what to me, the International Thriller Writers and what Thriller Fest is. You go there and it's a great source of workshops and signings. You're going to meet the authors you love, and that's all really good. But it's also a place where you start forming your community, and you don't start by saying, I want to meet this. You find the authors that are having the same struggles you are. And then hopefully you all get to like grow up together. Karen Slaughter and I did 3 weeks on the road together. And like 20 years ago, it's like, that's not trauma bonding. I don't know what that is.
In the trenches.
That's how you build your community. And that's what helps you survive. Because as authors, as writers, we only get the microcosm of what our publishing experience is right now. But that's not the market. You need friends having all these other things, and you need to have things even when your publisher or your agent comes to you with stuff. You go out to your other sources and kind of say, does this resonate with you? Is this consistent with your being heard? Because we all write in a vacuum, right? I joke I live in a snow globe. I'm in the mountains of New Hampshire. It's beautiful. It's scenic.
Hey, you should live on an island like Nick. He doesn't get to see anybody unless they wash ashore. So
you're a message in the bottle, and I'm a snow globe. It's like,
that's right.
If you didn't have ways to check in with a larger community, how would you know?
It also is interesting. Like if you look at people who, and we see a lot of people who are up and coming authors, and the ones that go on to be successful usually had a core group of community that they were able to call on because it makes a difference.
It's really fun to talk to the debuts because they really have the sense of hierarchy. Well, if I could become your friend, I'd be your friend. It's like, no. Look at you in this room right now. You guys are all going to grow up together. This is your community. You got to stop with looking for the Kardashians and just look for someone whose struggle, writing process, publishing experience speaks to you. You guys are going to grow up together and you are going to forever have these shared conversations and shared struggles moving forward. And it's so great. Writing is great to happen in isolation. I don't know how else we would do it. Publishing is a team sport. And that's where you need a community. And that's where writers organizations, and I do love Thriller Fest because it brings everyone, even internationally, into New York. In terms of bang for your buck, you're never going to meet so many and have so many experiences all in one room.
Yeah, it looks brilliant. I'm a member. I haven't been to it yet, but I think indies are allowed in the door, aren't we? Us weirdo indies are allowed in. So, we got to make it there sometime. We just came back from SPS London. So there's several things we go to which are more indie focused kind of thing. But man, they are so good.
I did BoucherCon last 2 years. I'm skipping this year because it's in Canada. That's too far north. But next year it'll be in DC. That's a little drivable. So
it's wherever you find your community. I didn't find it with mystery writers. I found it with the thriller writers. But it's all good. I do think if you're an author, we are loners at heart. And again, the writing is the solitary part. But to survive the business of publishing, and it's wherever you find it, embrace it and lean into it.
Absolutely. So with you do talks and presentations and what have you. What's your favorite topic to talk about? You mentioned you love chatting with debuts. So what's the topic you most like talking about?
Well, so the topic I love the most, which I never get to speak on, but I joke that I don't joke. I feel passionately it's actually missing. When you go to writers' conferences, here's how to plot, here's how to do character development, here's how to hit the New York Times in 5 years or less. I'm very passionate 35 years later on what keeps us writing. What's the muse? What's the creative process on the days you don't feel like writing at all? In most of us, I was very lucky after 10 years, I got to be a full-time author. But for a while as a business consultant, I worked 80 hours a week and I wrote from 11 p.m. to 1 in the morning to meet my deadline. And then even once I was a full-time thriller writer, it was just in time to have a family and I had kids and I was still trying to write.
I used to bounce ideas off my kids, and my daughter would always tell me I was stupid and it was a bad idea. And I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do it anyway. So
I'm kind of passionate in our industry about how do you keep creative? How do you keep the energy going? Particularly because I think there's a lot of things in everyday life that drain it right out of us too. If you're a contracted author where you're a book a year, how to balance all of this. And it's funny because my biggest technique I use to this day, I got from another author, Suze Brockman, who's huge in the romance world. And it's one of those crazy little funny things, but it works well as a scented candle. When she goes to write a book, which is actually writing, not doing email, not searching the internet, not going down Google rabbit holes, a scented candle, there'll be one per book. And at a certain point, smelling that fragrance clicks her. It's Pavlovian conditioned response. And I'm like, that's brilliant. And, it's one of those practical little things you don't think about. But when my kid was little, that saved me. Because, you went from Care Bears and the journey to lands of Jokes-a-Lot to how many people can I kill in one scene? Which the Care Bears actually did help. I'm not going to lie. That's nothing about the journey to... Enough Care Bears, you want to kill a lot of things. But
I love the fact that you associate scented candles with serial killers. I was just thinking, do they make them of like a motor oil scents or something like that?
You need a serial killer now that has to light a candle in order to do their serial killing. And then it'd be like a weird little quick quirk they've got.
They do a whole author series of candles, like the Charles Dickens candles. I don't find any of that useful. It's like...
Okay, well, what is something that, as someone who's teaching, what is one fundamental thing that you think new thriller writers often kind of overlook or miss or just completely skip altogether?
Oh, goodness, there's so many. I'm like, one is do find a community. It will help keep you sane. I lean in a lot to remember 1 page a day is progress. I mean, if you wrote a page a day at the end of the year, you'd have a book. I think particularly when you're new, and even if you've just sold a book, it almost overwhelmingly becomes this intimidating. I'm an author. I need to be generating like 10 pages a day. Yeah, like I need to be like, crushing it every day. And no, most of us, it's a quiet suffering until we get to the end.
Terry Pratchett's one I always hear. He's very prolific, but he wrote like 500 words a day, and that was it. I was like, man, 500 words feels like it is starting. So
Yeah, Carter Wilson is one of my new favorite authors, and he does some really great books, and he's really interesting to talk to. He writes for 1 hour a day every day, but never more than an hour. And it comes from the fact that for the longest time, it was his side hustle, right? He had a real job and he was writing on the side. And he's like, he still feels his best work is 1 hour a day and actually keeping it bound and tight with, I only have an hour. Because now he is a full-time author because he's been successful. But he's like, still the fact that I only have an hour makes it great. When he starts opening it up to have all day to do this, he's like, I get nothing done.
that is true. Yeah. I spread it out. I can easily spread out and procrastinate.
That's an interesting system because the rest of the time it's not that he's not thinking about it until that hour starts. He's thinking about it all the time. So he knows he only has that hour window. I think that might be a piece of brilliance right there.
And he loves to leave it hot, so to speak. Like he might be on a roll, but now the next day he can't wait to get back to it. Like this is why I also love the community of authors again and talking to other people, because it's like, I mean, there are days I get overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, there's 29 things going on, but I got to find a way to do just this. And but it's like, if you like, okay, I'm just spend 1 hour writing the best I can, it just makes it seem manageable. And the next thing you know, you have a book.
Yeah, and you're going to get faster and faster with that hour anyway because you're going to get better. Like you said, we're going to be thinking about it. I can see that being that I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. Finally get to sit down. It's like sitting down at the end of the day and you crack open a beer. It's the same thing for me. I get to sit down and crack open the laptop and write.
Part of his approach too is for today's modern authors, so to speak, and what our community is now is you have social media, you have all this other stuff to do. I sold pre-internet. I'll be honest, I miss those days. I remember when having a website felt like the worst thing you could ask an author to do. Now we're in social media hell. It's like, oh my God. I mean, we do everything but right. But so if you think about it, it's like, I'm going to spend 1 hour each day. And then you got the rest of the day to do this other stuff. And in the meantime, you're kind of jonesing in the back of your mind because I desperately want to get back to that. Like that's a good relationship to have with your craft.
I think it's the trigger. If anyone out there that's kind of in that mode where you're dreading to sit down and write for whatever reason that might be, try this method because that is definitely a way of building yourself up to, I can't wait to sit down and get these words on page, right? So I know you've talked about this is a business, that it's important to look at it as a business if you want it to be your career. And we talk about this all the time. We talk to a lot of newer authors and stuff who it's one of the things we say right out of the gate, start thinking about it like a business. Has that shifted for you over time? You talked about social media. You didn't have that stuff at the beginning. Now the pressures of having social media presence are huge on an author. So what has changed from your seat?
Oh my goodness, it is completely and totally changed the industry I've experienced in 35 years. I mean, there's just no way it couldn't have. And part of it is, I will say, I'm old school. This is my weakness when I deal with the debuts. Like not just how I got sold my very first book, which was kind of silly, but how it became an overnight success 10 years later, which is I got an agent. She said, write a thriller. I wrote a thriller. She sent it. And back in those days, New York was 5 white guys who basically told the rest of the world what to read. And I got lucky. One of them said, this book will be an overnight success. And the music industry had the same thing. For a while, there was what they called them the kingmakers. If they said it, it was so. I was lucky. My overnight success was Erwin Applebaum, who was huge back in the day, said, this will be Bantam's next New York Times bestseller. And because he said it, it was so. We don't have that anymore. Now we're decentralized. Now success is coming from the bottom. But by bottom, that means us, the authors. It means us, the writers. We're doing the hustle. I mean, I joke, writing has never so represented the Avon or Amway industry than.
Wow, that is very true.
And for a lot of this, that's not the sweet spot. Like I really am not into marketing and promotions, but if this is what you're passionate about and this is what you want, you kind of have to figure out a way to marry these things. And some of it is maybe your first investment as a writer. Like I have 2 full-time people for social media that work for me. It's like, maybe just go ahead and suck that up. Or maybe you're like, I'm good at this and I can do this. I mean, but it's recognizing this is the model. And then how do I make this work for me? I think a lot of people like, that's the model and I don't do that, so I will never be successful. And it's like, no, it's like any business industry. These are the variables. Now think about how you can manage this, because there's always a solution. All businesses, all entrepreneurs, the whole basis of being an entrepreneur in any industry is figuring out balance for you or the right allocation of resources to manage, the variables at play.
Brilliant. Yeah. Adapt, migrate, or die, right? I mean, as things move, you better move with them and be prepared to do that. So,
and things you don't like, find a high school student who does. Because let me tell you, you can give it like a 9-year-old right now, your Instagram account, and they will do way better than you are. So,
yeah, you're bound to have a family member. Yeah.
Child labor is probably not the best way to go, but hey, it's all right.
So I've had a ton of friends who've gone into self-publishing, and it's high school. They've gone to their local high school and the graphic arts program and said, hey, do you have a 17-year-old that's really good at this stuff? You want to design my book cover? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And so for peanuts, I mean, they're not, again, barriers to entry. They're not trying to go to huge people and pay tons of money to launch a self-publishing career. They're going to the 17-year-old down the street and launching their publishing, and it's worked. So
they're doing great, yeah, because it is something you can do. And that's one thing about the business is the barrier for entry is pretty low. So it doesn't take a lot if you can get in the door. So,
and locally, you probably do have some resources. I mean, between high schools, trade schools, whatnot, you probably can find some kid that'll be like, oh, this is fun.
So we've kept you for a long time. This has been absolutely brilliant. We have a couple more things. We're gonna throw a couple more questions your way. And the first one we ask every author is, what do you consider as your author's superpower?
Characterization, weirdly enough. I mean, I sound like I'm slightly insane. Everyone's like, where do you get your characters? How do you develop your characters? And I'm like, I hike mountains and they just come to me. I've always known Frankie Elkin. In Kiss Her Goodbye, the main character, her struggles in Afghanistan, Sabra, she's just been a voice in my head. The ability to walk deeply in other people's shoes. But I think that's also what brought me to both reading and writing. I think the best books, you walk in someone else's shoes. And I happen to be a thriller writer, but it's that element that's the most passionate for me. I think it's kind of my organic approach, but I just want to walk in other people's shoes. My own life is really dull. I'm not gonna
as our friend Dan Mason says, we get to spend all day playing with our imaginary friends. It's a pretty special to do what we do.
It's always it's a pretty good
all right,
time.
We got one more to throw at you. Doug has our wheel of questions, so we're gonna a random question.
One. And it's completely random. We just change them out. You can hear the little clicking.
Do, 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 do.
Stop it. I know. It goes forever. I spin it too hard. Okay. If you could co-write a story with any other author, we'll say living or dead, who would it be? I mean, you could leave
with the
Nick
obvious
and I
choice,
out, I guess,
so we won't put you on the spot with that, but somebody else.
Write a book. Okay, I have to admit, I love Karen Slaughter. And it's just not worth, but like Will Trent and some of like the characters she's done. Now she has a new series, We're All Guilty Here, and the sequel's coming out, and I think they're fabulous. But I'm not going to lie, I'm mad crush on Will Trent. And if we could co-write a book with like Will Trent and Dee Dee Warren, my detective, or Will Trent and Frankie Elkin, I don't even care. But if we could bring
Frankie Elkin would send Trent into a spin.
Wouldn't it? wouldn't that just be mad fun? I mean,
all right. I'm sure Karen's listening, so we need to get that going. So let's.
So International Thrill Writers did a fun anthology years ago where, what did we call it? Because I even participated in Partners in, but you matched up characters. So I worked with MJ Rose, and her character and my character were both in a book together. But man, Will Trent and Frankie Elkin, you are not wrong. That would be hysterically funny and quite fascinating.
I feel like a good holiday novella you guys should knock out together and just go ahead and make it not a big project. Yeah. So.
All right. When that happens, because it's got to happen, is we want a little byline in the acknowledgements in the back. These two numbnuts forced me into answering a question which started this whole thing.
We'll just bring Lisa and Karen back on. It'll be a fun little, hey, we just talked about it. So, yeah. Nick, what about you? Do you have one other than me?
Well, Lisa Gardner, of course. I mean, I want, imagine my Nora Summer character and Frankie Elkin.
Oh, I was thinking Nora's right up
absolutely.
Frankie's.
There we go. They'd be a match. Yeah. So
Nick and I already write together. We have a series that we do together
which
already.
We're really behind on doing the latest edition.
Does doing this help inspire you to write?
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. No, this is just, really, we started this just so we could hang out and talk, and because we wanted our community, and it kind of grew into adding more people and it's just made us really big into the.
We get to meet amazing people like you and talk about books for an hour. I mean, it's, we get off of this, our interviews, and we're normally inspired,
It's one of the most fascinating things when I do book signings and stuff is that the general public, I guess, have the sense that authors were competitive and we like stab each other on the back. And it's like, oh God, no. If you can meet someone else that has voices in their head telling them to kill and it's still not been institutionalized or arrested, you're really genuinely excited. It's like, yay, community.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you.
And the other side is everybody's going to finish a book, and as soon as they finish it, they want the next book. So there's no competition, really, not really. So
the high tide floats all boats.
Absolutely, yeah, and they can read a lot more than we can write ourselves, right?
Our real competition is Netflix, but it's like the rest of my family, interestingly enough, at dinner does not want to hear about head hopping, POV, dark story arcs, the amateur sleuth. I mean, I don't know why. I think they're missing out. But if we didn't have each other, what would we do?
I'm telling you.
Exactly. Speak the same language. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. This has absolutely been a treat for us, and our listeners are going to love it. And best of luck with the release. It's going to go huge.
This has been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I hope everyone enjoys You'll Be Sorry and everyone's books. Yay.
How cool was that?
Oh, no, I bet you're super excited after all that. You're going to be all up and on your high.
I'm even bigger fangirl now. Yeah.
I know. She was wonderful. How much
fun.
What
a lovely lady.
Oh, my God. It's always great when we have a fun interview like that. We could just talk forever. So
she was really cool and so smart about it. I mean, just loads of cool little nuggets of info for everyone on the writing craft, the business, all that good stuff. So wonderful. Cool. Big thank you to our Patreon subscribers. If you're not on the Patreon thing, check it out. See if you like it.
Yeah, we had a really good question with Lisa there. So,
Oh, yeah. Lisa hung around and we had a great chat with her that'll go in the bonus content, just to tease you a little bit about that. Also, huge thanks to Vellum for their support of the show. We love the product and love our partnership with Vellum. So thank you very much to those guys. You'll find links to all that stuff, links to Lisa's books. We talked about Thriller Fest. There's links in there in the show notes, all the good stuff. And we'll see you next week. Until then, be cool to each other.
And fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favorite platform for new shows coming every week.